Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are breaking down a truly unbelievable real-life story of undercover justice, the gross abuse of power, and the ultimate triumphs of honest labor. If you've ever felt totally frustrated by systemic corruption, this is going to be a deeply satisfying journey. We're going to dig into the exact timeline and the incredibly precise tactics used in a brilliant sting operation right at a humble roadside restaurant called the Annapurna Dhaba. So picture this. What actually happens when a corrupt cop demands free food from a waitress who is, well, secretly her boss? Sounds like something straight out of a Hollywood movie, right? But today, we're exploring a super tense, real-world narrative of power and extortion that answers that exact question. We are going to see how a seemingly completely powerless situation was flipped totally upside down in just a matter of days. Act 1, Fear at Annapurna Dhaba. To really get why this story hits so hard, we first need to understand the absolute nightmare that honest workers face every single day under a corrupt system. Our story centers on Vikram Pratap Singh. He's an older, super hardworking guy who owns the Annapurna Dhaba. Now, this restaurant is his entire life. It's his only means of survival. Just listen to the sheer despair in his own words. If I ask for money, they will frame me in a false case and put me in jail. This breaks your heart, right? It shows he isn't just annoyed about losing a few rupees on free meals. He is living in constant, paralyzing terror of a local police officer named Inspector Bhavani. He genuinely believes that simply asking a police officer to pay a restaurant bill will literally destroy his life. But then, the whole dynamic completely flips. A mysterious, super confident young woman named Kavya shows up at the Dhaba looking for work. Vikram tries his best to warn her away, telling her the labor is absolutely grueling, standing all day in the intense heat and smoke, scrubbing dishes, serving huge crowds. But Kavya just insists. She tells him that no work is too small, and she just asks for one chance. So Vikram, who has absolutely no idea who he is actually hiring, takes her on as a waitress. Act 2, Escalation and the First Bill. Everything is going pretty smoothly at the Dhaba, and Kavya is quickly winning over the customers. But as the afternoon rolls around, the dreaded Inspector Bhavani makes her entrance. And she doesn't just walk in, she literally invades the space. She arrives with 3 muscular constables, and they actually bang their batons on tables to scare away paying customers just so they can sit down. Bhavani props her boots right up on a chair, barking orders at Vikram for his most expensive dishes, malai kofta, tandoori roti, and demands extra ice in her lassi. And of course, she never pays. She uses pure physical intimidation to extract a lavish feast from a terrified old man. Poor Vikram tries to hide Kavya in the back to protect her, but Kavyan, she is entirely unbothered. She walks right up to the corrupt inspector and serves the food herself. And then, get this, as Bhavani finishes her unpaid feast and turns to leave, the unthinkable happens. Kavya calmly walks right up to her and hands her a bill for exactly 850 rupees. The entire restaurant goes dead silent. Literally, nobody has ever dared to ask Inspector Bhavani for money before. Well, as you can probably guess, Bhavani's reaction is just explosive. She threatens, "If you run your mouth again, I will set fire to this dhaba." She kicks a chair, completely shattering it, and tells Kavya that she will lock her away in a jail cell where her dead body will never even be found. It's just a raw, terrifying display of unchecked power. She storms out, leaving Vikram sobbing on the floor, utterly convinced his life is over. Let's quickly look at how fast this all escalates. Kavya gets hired on day 1. Day 2 brings that massive, tense confrontation over the 850 rupee bill. And while Vikram spends the next couple of days unable to sleep, literally jumping at the sound of every passing siren, Kavya remains completely cool. She just keeps washing dishes and serving food, setting the stage perfectly for day 4. Act 3, the ultimate confrontation. Now, Bhavani is definitely not the type of person to let an insult slide. She comes back on the 4th day, and she brings a literal army to make good on her violent threats. This isn't just a shakedown anymore. It's a planned destruction. She brings 2 police vehicles and extra staff. She isn't even carrying a standard baton. She brings a hunter, a whip. She demands free food for her entire crew, deliberately drops her plate on the floor, and screams that there's a bug in the dal. She even physically throws a water bottle right at Kavya's head. Finally, she declares the ultimate death sentence for Vikram's livelihood. She says the dhaba will be permanently sealed and locked up tomorrow. So Bhavani turns to leave. just smiling at the absolute chaos she has caused. But Kavya steps right in front of her again. And in an ultimate display of absolute nerves of steel, Kavya hands her a brand new bill for 2,500 rupees. She's actually charging her for today's massive feast, on top of everything else. It's a total clash of worldviews here. On one side, you've got Inspector Bhawani's view of power, using a uniform to extort free things and spread fear. On the exact opposite side, you have Kavya's view of power, insisting that even the police are totally bound by the rules, and that their actual job is to protect citizens, not rob them blind. At this point, Bhawani completely loses her mind. She raises her hand to physically strike Kavya, but, and this is amazing, Kavya catches her wrist midair with incredible strength. Bhawani is screaming for her constables to arrest Kavya, to put her in handcuffs and drag her out into the street. But right at that exact second, a massive twist arrives. A white government bolero with a blue beacon pulls up right outside the Dhaba. Two plainclothes officers step out of the vehicle and walk straight into the restaurant. They flash their badges to Inspector Bhawani. Now, these guys are from the Special Vigilance Cell, the elite officers specifically tasked with investigating and stopping corruption within the police force itself. They look right at Bhawani and tell her that arresting this waitress would be the biggest and absolutely the last mistake of her life. Bhawani is totally confused and terrified. She asks the vigilance officers what they are even doing here. They tell her, "We are here on her orders," and they point right at Kavya. And this leads to arguably the most satisfying moment in the entire story. Kavya looks at the corrupt inspector and says, "What happened? Weren't you going to handcuff me? Put the handcuffs on. I am standing right in front of you." Then, the ultimate mic drop. Kavya reaches into her pocket and pulls out her ID card. The humble waitress who had been scrubbing dishes in the back of a hot, smoky restaurant was actually Kavya, Indian Police Service, the newly appointed superintendent of police. She is literally Inspector Bhawani's ultimate boss. Turns out, Kavya had received numerous complaints about a local inspector running this extortion racket, and she decided to go undercover to witness the truth with her very own eyes. Instantly, Inspector Bhawani collapses to her knees. She's crying, begging for her job, pleading for mercy because she has a family. But Kavya has zero sympathy. She asks Bhawani, "What about the families of the poor restaurant owners you steal from?" Kavya immediately orders the vigilance officers to arrest Bhawani and her constables right on the spot. They are hit with severe criminal charges: corruption, extortion, intimidating the public, and misusing a government uniform. They get handcuffed and dragged away in front of a completely cheering crowd. Epilogue: justice and dignity. With the corrupt officers hauled away to jail, Vikram is left standing there in absolute shock. He approaches SP Kavya, crying for a completely different reason now. He is apologizing profusely for making a high-ranking IPS officer wash his dirty dishes and wipe down his tables. But Kavya stops him right there. She tells him, "No work is small or big. Real respect belongs to hardworking people like you." She completely elevates the inherent dignity of his honest labor. And just to prove her point, she reaches into her pocket and actually pays Vikram her earnings for the shifts she worked at his Dhaba. And that leaves us with a really powerful final thought to chew on. How does society treat its honest, hardworking citizens compared to those who blindly abuse their power? Kavya's undercover operation is a brilliant reminder that authority without accountability is basically just tyranny. But true power, that lies in upholding justice and protecting those who simply want to do an honest day's work. Keep that question in mind the next time you see power dynamics playing out in your own community. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.